I took some time this morning to sit and watch Coco, and it's something I've been meaning to do for a while. I kept trying to watch this movie, and I kept getting interrupted, and I had so much going on. It wasn't really possible for me to sit and watch like the entire thing in one sitting, and it's very very frustrating that it's so difficult to like sit and watch a movie in this day and age when like I have a million things going on. I'm constantly struggling to like finish my own projects and finish like record things and like do all this. I'm working like near constantly. So to sit and watch a movie for me is next to impossible. But as it so happens, I did watch this movie from start to finish, not in one sitting, and came away with some very strong thoughts about it. This is probably the most emotional I've been like watching a movie forever. And I don't know if that says more about me than the movie, honestly. And that's kind of my perspective on this, is because I feel like this movie objectively is not very good. I do kind of hate the animation. I do hate how they set everything up. I do hate like the really contrived like conflict between the characters. I hate how many characters there are. I hate how like there's just so much like about this movie that's kind of forced, especially when it comes to like the overarching antagonist. And yet, because of like my own personal strong personal convictions, like I ended up like really really loving it. And that's kind of my issue with this. Like objectively, I don't think the movie works at all. Like I've kind of I do feel as if like the entire movie like just completely falls apart with like one very sharp like really sudden realization, in that like having the twist villain, having Ernesto be the bad guy after being set up as like his real great grandfather. Like not only is that like very obviously not true, like I instantly knew this was like not gonna happen, this was not gonna play out. Like not only is it not the case, it completely distracts from like the actual core plot. Like, there was no reason to have an antagonist in this. Like, realistically, I feel like if Ernesto was removed entirely, you would have a much better film. Like, there are so many scenes in this where, like, Miguel's with his family and he's talking about music and, like, he's trying to, like, talk about his dream and stuff like that. And, like, his entire driving force is his love of, like, music, right? His love for Ernesto. And yet, like, there are so many times where, like, he's talking to his family about why he's doing what he's doing and why he wants to do this. And, the real reason why is because of Ernesto. Because he believes that, like, Ernesto is his great-great-grandfather. And yet, he has several conversations with his great-great-grandmother, about the situation. They talk like a couple of times throughout the movie, and yet somehow, very conspicuously, they never bring up like the situation at all. This is all like a misunderstanding that would have been pretty easily cleared up if like the extremely contrived set of circumstances did not pull them apart. Like, are you really supposed to like believe that Miguel wasn't aware of like what his great great grandfather looked like? Like, oh, like nobody has a photo of him, but his grandma, his great, Coco does, Mama Coco does. But like, if she has that, then that means that she remembered her father fondly, which means that the entire concept of like the entire family hating music, like, it just kind of falls apart because she's clearly very nostalgic for her dad, She clearly loved her dad. So, like, the entire notion is that, like, no, we hate music because he left us for music. It's just like, what are you talking about? Especially because he was, like, killed, Like, you're telling me that he didn't write ahead to tell them that, like, he was coming home. He wasn't keeping in contact with them in any way. You're supposed to believe that he was just poisoned and then didn't return. Like, it doesn't work. Like, fundamentally, the core plot of this hinges on this idea that Ernesto is just a complete douchebag, right? But it just doesn't suit, like, the nature of the plot. It's just an extremely contrived situation in which instead of being a real family drama, it descends into this like ridiculous notion that like, oh yeah, actually, it was only because of this other guy that it all fell apart. It's just like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? It does not work. Like, it simply does not work. And there are so many things in this movie that do kind of fall apart, right? Where you do have, the family, right? Like, Miguel's living relatives, like, do absolutely nothing. Like, they set up his grandma to be kind of like some major antagonist and a huge bitch, like, like, she sucks, right? She sucks. But, like, they try and do this thing, like, okay. So, like, the weird thing about this, and the thing I have an issue with, the movie really acts as if, like, the grandma and the great-great-grandma are the same character. Where it really feels like he meets her in the afterlife, and she's kind of treated as, like, an extension of the grandma. So, like, she's the one who hates music. She's the one who has an issue with, like, the music industry. She has the issue with her husband, right? And that's something that her granddaughter carries over. But, like, it's with her that, like, Miguel has the reconciliation with, not the actual living grandmother, right? Like, again, it's very interesting in this sense where, like, if you made the grandma an antagonist in the sense where she was, like, kind of living in the past and kind of pushing this belief that, like, music is inherently evil, bro, like, it'll completely tear the family apart, like, that would have been a way more interesting narrative than what they actually went with, like, the actual story they used was terrible, it didn't make Hector look, like a reasonable absent dad, right? Okay. So the entire core concept is that, like, Hector leaves to pursue his career in music, okay? He abandons the family, okay? That's set up, that's why the family hates music, but, like, then it's revealed that, like, oh, yeah, well, he was gonna come back, but he was poisoned by his partner who took all of his songs and became famous. Well, like, and it's just like, are you serious? Like, are you serious? Like, it's so contrived in this sense. Like, it just doesn't work for, like, the themes of, like, the movie and what they're trying to get across. Like, it would have been so much better if, like, Hector actually did abandon the family and then, like, genuinely had regrets. But instead, it just comes off as if he's, like, he was working and then he decides, like, yeah, I'm working too much and I need to spend more time with my family. And, like, it doesn't make it look as if he actually genuinely made mistakes. And, like, that his child was genuinely traumatized by this. Like, it doesn't come across that way at all, Instead, you just have this weird, like, contrivance that just completely tears apart the entire movie. Like, it just doesn't work. And I say this, I complain about everything this movie does, and yet, like, I kind of loved it, honestly. And I suppose this is kind of like my feeling towards it as a film is that, like, I like the idea of it more than I like the film itself, Like, I like the whole, like, the setting. I like the whole, like, family vibe. I like the general concept and idea, right? It's very, very, it's very, very touching. I love the whole theme of, like, of family and stuff like that. Like, it has such a good, like, payoff for certain things. Like, the whole, like, remember me thing and, like, how Hector is, like, genuinely passionate about music, but Ernesto only cared about the fame. And it's like, it's a really nice, interesting contrast. Like, that's what's so frustrating about this movie to me is that if they had cleared up the script a little bit, they would have had a much more solid picture, in my opinion. Like, this did not need a twist villain. It just is just my kind of takeaway from this. They had so many more interesting characters that they really did nothing with. Like, Miguel has such a large family, and yet, like, his siblings do nothing. His grandma does very nothing aside from doing the whole, like, thing of, like, music is evil. It's the devil. Like, a lot of his, like, dead relatives don't do anything. It's like, it's so frustrating seeing this play out and seeing these like characters just kind of like interact and do stuff and just kind of like go progress through the plot, and like it really does feel like they're just going through the motions. They're not really establishing like a real drama. They're not really talking about like their real issues that they had in life and their past, and like how all this has affected them. They're just kind of like props for this story that's really just about like Miguel, Hector, and like his wife. Like, again, like the cast is too big. That's definitely something I can definitely see where they were like trying to come away from this. Like, oh yeah, it's a big Mexican family. Yeah, like I can see where they were going with that, but like they have too many characters that they did nothing with. Like, I know it's not exactly realistic, or it's not something that would like get the core theme across very well, but like I do think Miguel needed like a smaller family for the plot. Like, he did need like there was no reason for him to have siblings. There was no reason. Like, I don't know. Honestly, this is the thought that crossed my mind. Like, why didn't they just kill off the grandma about halfway through, and then like have her be in the afterlife, and then have her reconcile with Miguel there, and learning about like Hector together, like that seems to be a lot more to make a little bit more sense than like what they were going with. Like, again, this is like a story about like a 5-6 generation family. It's just like come on, like it's just too many characters to keep track of for a film like this. And like the fact that they focus so much time and effort on like Ernesto, who sucks and drags the entire thing down, is just it's just ridiculous. Like, this movie did not need a villain. Fuck the twist villain thing. It's not about that. This movie did not need a villain. Period. Like the entire story should have been about the family drama. It shouldn't have had like a real antagonist in this sense. Like, it should have been about like reconciling your differences and like loving each other anyway. But like it's just not. I definitely feel very strongly about this. Like I definitely came away from this like really enjoying it for the most part. But I think like objectively, it's just not that good of a film. Like, Disney really needs to learn how to like trim down their scripts and make something that's like a bit more manageable, because this is something that like they really should have thought about more during production.